The next Lee and Ian podcast is approaching the station. Please step aside.
Welcome to the Lee and Ian Show, sponsored by Grodman Law and Mediation. When it comes to divorce, family first. Check out GrodmanMediation.com. My name is Lee Navlin, and once again, I'm joined by my favorite pal, Ian Grodman.
Hey, how are you, Lee? And thank you for talking about Grodman Law and Mediation. We appreciate that.
Sure, look, so Ian, real quickly talk about what you do with your law and your mediation practice. Divorce, statistically speaking, nationwide is 55%.
Yeah,
I mean,
close to half of marriages end up in divorce.
And so mediation, what is different when we talk about mediation as opposed to just going through the courts?
Right.
Why mediation?
Well, you know what? Most people, when they first come to me for mediation, they come to me because they want to save money, right? Usually, if somebody's going to get divorced, they're going to give a $10,000 retainer to their lawyer. You're both going to give a $10,000 retainer to your lawyer. That can get used up pretty quickly in litigation, right? So in mediation, you can get divorced for a fraction of that cost. But what I think the greatest benefit to mediation is, you know, I tell people when they come to me for a consultation, you know yourselves, you know your family better than anybody, right? Why not you control what the outcome is of your divorce rather than a judge deciding it for you, right? Because a judge is going to look at you, the two of you, your family. They're going to get basically like a bird's eye view really quickly in one day, maybe 2 days, and make decisions about your entire family and how they're going to be living for the rest of your lives. And I think, you know, if you can control that outcome yourselves, find a way to work through it with a professional mediator, of course.
That would
it's
be
a better
Ian
way to
Grodman.
go. That would be me.
Now, so basically, how would it work now? Okay, my wife and I, we've had it with each other.
No, not you and your wife. Somebody else and their wife.
Okay, someone else and their wife. They're having trouble. Would they need to approach you together, sans lawyers? You know, how does that process work?
Yep.
You know, are they lawyers sitting there also during mediation?
There can be. So I always try to make sure that people come in together. I don't think that it's helpful for me to meet them separately. I tell people a fringe benefit to mediation is if you've gotten to the point where you're getting divorced, your communication is probably broken down dramatically from what it used to be. I tell people not only do we work out all the legal issues that come about at the end of a marriage, we're also helping you to communicate in a new way as co-parents, as people who are going to be working together in the same family for the rest of your lives, even though you're not married. I tell my clients, you may not be married anymore, but you're a family forever if you have children.
Absolutely. Now, if do you help with things like splitting assets, things of that nature?
That's all the legal stuff.
That's the mediation right there.
With splitting assets, we come up with what your parenting plan is going to look like. We come up with what your responsibilities and obligations to your children are, what your responsibilities and obligations to each other are. We talk about support. We talk about child support. We talk about alimony. We talk about all of that, and we work out an agreement in the end. Usually the agreement's about 30 pages long, and then you're ready to get finalized in a divorce in court pretty quickly. It's always a good idea to have a lawyer on your side, but it's not necessary.
Okay, right. The mediator's job specifically is to work for both parties. So the mediator doesn't have there's nothing.
And I tell people
I'm kind of on his side because she was beating him or what. You know what I mean?
Well,
There's nothing.
If there's domestic violence, it becomes a lot more complicated.
Okay, right.
But I also tell people it's not just working for the parties, it's working for the family, right? So if you have like 2 children, I always tell them, I'm working for all 4 of you to come up with a plan that's going to work for your family going forward.
Okay, yeah, excellent.
That works within what the law is, of course.
Yeah, because I was talking to a few friends because they've been listening to our podcast, and they said, "Yeah, you keep talking about Grodman mediation and your partner Ian," and so they were actually asking me, like, I'm kind of unfamiliar with that type of work. So they said they should probably talk to Ian about it and find out more. And I said, yeah, I guess the word mediation isn't it's a definition in and of itself, which kind of makes sense in that it's splitting, It's working out problems, working out solutions.
That's it. It's like coming up with a solution that is going to work for everybody.
Right. Now, have you ever worked with any famous people, by the way? Is there anybody out there? You can't say names, obviously, but, have some of these divorces, you're like, wow, this is these people. This could be a movie. This could be. I mean, because
there's plenty that could be a movie. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I've had people arguing about their body parts in mediation. And we get some pretty interesting things.
Right.
Yeah.
And you got to sit there with a smile on your face, say, "Okay, I don't know how I'm gonna work that out, but we will research it. We will get to the bottom of
it's
the
more
issue."
like, well, let's kind of like drill down to what the issues are that we're actually trying to figure out here, and kind of focus on more on that.
Okay.
It's kind of redirecting people.
Yeah. And mediation hasn't been around that long, right? Is this the last 20 years? I mean, I don't remember.
I think mediation's been around forever.
Has it? Okay.
Maybe more formally now than it was at any point in the past.
Yeah.
But I think people realize that, this is a much better way to preserve a relationship, right? As bad as the relationship might be, this is a better way to preserve some aspect of that relationship going forward.
Okay, because my being familiar with divorce is like Kramer versus Kramer, like the movie where they're sitting in the courtroom and they hate each other, and the judge is angry at the world, and
we get people coming in who hate each other and they're angry at the world.
But you're able to ratchet it down and say, think about the children, think about your future, think about think about everything you own that doesn't need to go to attorneys and to whatnot and court fees and.
I mean, I'll tell you, very often in mediation, what I really like, there's a lot of things that I really like about being a mediator, but one of the things I really like is very often people who are at a point where they can't even look at each other, they can't even talk to each other. They'll kind of like walk out of mediation and they're kind of like laughing with each other a little bit, and kind of like, like we're going to be okay, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to be married anymore, but like we're going to be okay, and I think that's a great thing.
There is life after marriage.
There is.
Yeah, if you're careful with how you handle the remnants of the marriage.
Right, and there could be a connection, continued connection, maybe very often improved connection. Once you go through mediation as well.
100%. So, Ian, wanted to change the subject a little bit.
Yes.
What's been going on over the last couple of days? Now, just for the listening audience, we record this a few days before we actually release the podcast. So, business-wise,
Things
perhaps
can change dramatically by the time this airs.
Especially now.
Yes.
So since I have Ian Grodman with me, who's not only a mediator, but he's also the chair of the Maplewood Democratic Committee.
That's correct.
And he's a former vice mayor of Maplewood. So, Ian, you're very attuned to politics and whatnot. Donald Trump's tariffs.
Right.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Donald Trump's tariffs. Now, yesterday was Wednesday.
Right.
He went ahead and he put a 90-day pause on the tariffs, except for China. The market responded by...
We asked to punish because they questioned him.
Right, because how dare they? How dare they? That's basically right. Yeah.
So, how dare you do to me what I'm doing to you?
Right. So he's got, something. He don't like the Chinese, or he claims he does, but whatever it is, he's got something up his. And I think it might have something to do with COVID. I think he's still mad because he feels COVID kind of destroyed his first presidency. He's taking it out on him now. I mean, in the back of my mind, I think. But anyway, so yesterday the market's up 3,000 points after tanking all week. I'm looking at it right now.
15% drop last Thursday and Friday.
Right. Yesterday makes some of it back, quite a bit of it back, but not all of it back. Today I'm looking, Dow's dropped 800 points as we speak. So so these drops, 800, 1,000. I mean, this is a different ball game. Things are completely different.
Absolutely.
This is self-inflicted.
Yes, it is self-inflicted.
Yeah. So
maybe for a reason, right? We don't even know about that, right? I mean, how many people benefited? How many very wealthy people probably benefited over the course of this last week?
Yeah,
from all this volatility in the market.
Somebody said, the whole U.S. stock market is now a meme. A meme. Basically like a meme stock. You're like with the GameStop. That was basically yesterday's version of GameStop.
Absolutely.
For everything. Trump goes in the morning and he says now might be a good time to buy, and then he goes ahead a couple hours later and he announces a pause, knowing the market's going to explode. And I don't know, was that like a Cal Burnett thing with the ear, like a little wink to his friends?
I don't know. I think it may have been.
Yeah,
right?
So I would just think that but who investigates these type of things, and who's left to investigate? I mean, the Justice Department, is
well, the Justice Department is
what's left of them is
right. So there's too many people who are afraid to speak up and do anything right now, and we're seeing that all the time with elected officials. First, it was people in the Republican Party were afraid to go against Trump because they would be primaried by somebody in MAGA. We're starting to see Democratic elected officials, right? Like kind of capitulate to, okay, whatever whatever Trump wants, we'll do. We see these big law firms giving $10 million worth of free legal work to causes that are important to Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's a scary time now. Now you're involved here in New Jersey in politics. You Maplewood obviously, but I know the state you're very involved too, as far as knowing what's going on and knowing a lot of the parties, the actors. On a national level, last week Booker we were talking about this before the air.
Right.
Bro, he got up there and he spoke for
25 hours.
25 hours.
Pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing.
And he spoke substantively, right? He wasn't, reading telephone books or reading things like that, like other people have done in the past.
Discussing policy, discussing
25
issues.
hours. He talked about policy. He talked about what was wrong with the current administration. He talked about what needs to be done, what could be done. It was all substantive for 25 hours long with no break.
Right now, what are your thoughts? Why did he do it? What did he accomplish? Do you any idea? Was it to get a little more of a national kind of notoriety, or was it really to just make sure that the Trump people knew that the Democrats weren't rolling over?
Right. I think the primary reason was there are too many Democratic elected officials in particular right now who are not speaking up, who are not speaking out, and there's been a backlash within the party as a result of that. And I think that was probably Cory Booker's main motivation to show Democratic senators are doing something about this. We're not going to just take this anymore. We're going to stand up. We're going to speak about it. And that's exactly what he did, figuratively.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't hurt to think this is somebody who's expressed an interest in running for president before.
Right.
This kind of thing can get his name out there more, can get a lot of media attention for somebody who might be interested in running for president in 2028 as well.
Now, I have some Republican friends. I know there are people.
I have Republican friends too, not a lot, but I have some.
I do. I like everybody. I liked back. My wife and I have talked about this. She goes, I liked back in the day before there was social media. No one knew who voted for whom or what. And everybody got along kind of, in school or whatnot. And we're a little bit older. Maybe if they like the same music as you were friends with them.
Right.
If they like the same wine. But now things are very different. If if they're voting for somebody different. But my whole point of is my Republican friends, they'll kind of look snickering at what Booker did, and I know that they're snickering because they want to. That's what you snicker at those you don't agree with, you make fun of.
That's it.
But do you believe that Booker put himself into a position where in 4 years maybe because the Democrats are looking for that next.
That's it.
Guy.
That's right. The Democrats need somebody. I mean, Cory Booker is. He's not as young as he used to be, but he's a younger person who's part of the party establishment, and I think it's important for the party establishment to find a younger person. We can't have presidents who are 78 and 80 years old anymore.
Right? Right. It's especially the Democrats right now. I think they really want to turn the page with someone young. Maybe the governor of California. I know he's Newsom. He's now so I guess he's with the former reporter. He's friendly with who from Fox News who was dating one of the Trumps. Kimberly.
I think he's married to one of the Trumps.
Guilfoyle, is that him? I
Guilfoyle.
guess. They're still friends, I guess. And she apparently has been giving him some political advice. That's what I'm reading, and it might have something to do with the fact he's kind of sliding a little bit towards the middle a little bit.
A lot of Democrats feel that the Democratic Party needs to be more moderate, needs to be more middle of the road, right? And that's one way to look at it, right? A better way to look at it, in my opinion, is start talking more about the issues that are important to most people in the country, right? That doesn't make you middle of the road or moderate. It's just dealing with the things that are important to people.
Now, I've often thought Donald Trump kind of came to the Republican Party and he said. He listened and he said it's a Tea Party or whatnot. He said that's what I'm going to become. I'm going to be what you guys want. I'm going to deliver what you. He's an actor.
I'm going to give you what you want, so I get what I want.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to deliver the persona of the individual that you claim you want. And I feel like the Democratic Party, maybe they had an honest version of Donald Trump, and Bernie Sanders, a guy who's like, I'm what you want. You want universal health care. You know, these are the issues that you guys have been begging for since the beginning of time, and I'm going to deliver it. I'm going to try to deliver it, but for some reason the party kind of turned its back, I think, on Sanders with Clinton and then again with Biden.
Right.
Are your thoughts that maybe the party shouldn't be sliding into the middle? Because my son, for instance, you know, your son's age, he's 20.
Yep.
He's like, no, the other way. Go to the left. The Republicans got the right wing, nut. We need our left wing guy to say this is the issues we want. This is what the American people need, require, would love to have. Let's go that route rather than try to, you play ball with the Republicans. Hey, we want to meet you in the middle and we want to be friends.
So first of all, I want to say, right, but after all that, you cannot compare Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump.
Right. Yeah.
Donald Trump
That's
is
true.
about, in my opinion, Donald Trump is about Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe that Donald Trump cares about most Americans. I do not believe that he really cares to do what's best for this country. I really do believe that he is almost pathological in doing what's best for Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, Bernie Sanders is putting the needs of real working people in the United States first, second, third, and all the time. So I don't think that you can compare them in that way. I think you're right that Bernie Sanders is bringing a lot of attention to the issues that are most important to a lot of Americans, right? Bernie Sanders had a lot of support from people who were very moderate, from people who were right. To the right, I should say.
Yeah, right.
So I think that Bernie Sanders is doing a better job than the Democratic Party nationally in terms of getting those issues out there and getting people motivated to turn out and vote. I think that to the middle of the country, they look at like where we live in Maplewood and South Orange, the Northeast, as these elitist areas of the country. And sometimes we come across that way. And we have to work on making sure that we are connected to what real people care about throughout the country, not just here in Maplewood and South Orange, not just in New Jersey, not just in the Northeast.
Now, the reason I'm setting you up with all this, Ian, is because, again, you're a political strategist. You're a smart guy. You understand politics.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Yeah, you make decisions on you talk to people who are interested in politics.
I help other people make
You
decisions.
guided.
Right.
There's so many people here in Maplewood that are now on the committee or wanted to get into politics. When I want to get into politics, you sat down with me and you discussed the
I'll sit down with everybody.
the pluses and the minuses,
Right.
and you gave me like 20 minuses and 1 plus. You said this is why you're never going to win.
I'm sure there were 2 or 3 pluses with the 20 minuses. However, I thought you had a great uphill battle.
Yeah, I had I did. Well, I ran against Vic DeLuca, for those who are unfamiliar, and it was India Larier at the time. They had the endorsement of the Maplewood Democratic
right.
Committee. I did, and I ran as a Democrat. So people think I ran as a Republican, by the way, but I ran as a Democrat in the primary.
I may have told you to talk to the Republican Party, too.
You mentioned it, and I had to sit down with Art Christensen.
Oh, okay.
And then
Art's a good man.
Yeah, he wanted to hire me to help him run his Airbnb. It was,
There we go.
I was like, Art, that's not why I'm here.
Yep.
He's like, well, I'm looking for somebody to clean. I'm like, Art, no.
Right.
But anyway, I got friendly with Art as a result of that, so I do appreciate that. But my point is, you understand politics. For Democrats, Bernie's been barnstorming with AOC.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
Is she running for president in 2020? What do you think about that?
I don't know. A lot of people have been talking about her running against Chuck Schumer for Senate in New York. And, I was very disappointed in Chuck Schumer's decision that he made about the budget recently in the Senate. I understand his reasons for why he did what he did, what his rationale was.
They want to shut down the government.
He wasn't going to win either way.
Right.
My feeling is if you're not going to win either way, go with the stronger choice.
Yeah. Well, Schumer said, no uncertain terms, and I heard it in an interview, and this is just off the top of my head, the problem we have is if we shut down the government, he's like, then Trump kind of can make decisions on his own
right.
without Congress. Every single decision he wants to make
right.
that would require congressional
That's right.
oversight, that's gone, and it could be 3 weeks, it could be 3 months.
Right.
So that's what was scaring
But
Schumer.
that would hopefully also get more people to start speaking up and speaking out, right? Because the thing is, there are so many people who are terribly disenchanted and concerned and worried about what's going on. but they're not doing anything about it. They're not saying anything about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a very interesting time in our lives.
It is. It's frightening.
It's frightening, as guys like us, a little bit older, and we're looking at our, our IRAs and and you say to yourself, and of course, you can say, well, look. Some guy on CNBC was saying, look, we all know the market's going to be at 50,000 eventually. If it's next year or it's 5 years from now, it's going to get to 50,000. He's like, we understand that, and they say it with such certainty, but I don't know. This is different with real estate, right? By the way, that's a good point.
We don't have to get distracted with my real estate business. Don't
right. We'll talk about real estate in a bit, but. What do you think the market's going to say? Me, I play the long game, always have, so
best way to do it.
Right. So, I'm saying, well, Trump, he's not going to chop this thing in half. I don't think. We'll have a new president in 4 years, despite what everybody says. Trump's out of there. I know everybody says he wants to he's president for life, and I don't. The Secret Service will drag him out by his ankles. The day after he's out of office.
So.
It's so what do you do? Are you buying and holding now? Are you selling? What do you do with
real
this
estate?
You're buying real estate.
That's a whole other story.
You're buying real estate.
Yes.
So in the market, so I'm in a hold position right now.
Right.
Like people are like, oh, this is a buying opportunity. Nah, I'm not buying. I have what I have, holding it. I'm not buying more. I'm not selling more.
I think that's the common philosophy, right? That, ride it out, like, because you are in it for the long term, right? There are people who are speculators, and I think there's a lot of those people who are benefiting by the extreme volatility that we're seeing in the market now due to Trump putting these tariffs into place that have no economic justification at all.
Right.
It's just to punish people who he feels have been, quote unquote, taking advantage of the United States for all of these years.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we have trade deficits, and you look at those numbers, and they're
we're
not
still the wealthiest country in the world.
It's not sustainable. They say, I'm not a mathematician. I would love.
It has been for 80 years.
Right. So but to just. And I understand addressing these issues, but not so fast. Just one day. And it looks like yesterday. I mean, I'm watching CNBC yesterday. Treasury Secretary Bassett he's going to Congress. He's going to be speaking to some people in Congress. Last second, he cancels it, and the media picks up on it, and they find out he's headed to the White House.
Right.
The market starts to go up because he's headed to the White House.
That's it.
They figure something's going on. Trump is bringing them in. Trump's drama, right? And then the market explodes once the 90-day thing is in there. These are spur of the moment. People say this is the art of the deal. I don't think this is the art of the deal. I think this is spur of the moment type of stuff he's doing. 90 days, no 90 days. We're doubling it for China.
Petulant decision making, like on a whim. There's no great thought being put into any of this.
You might do it with a business. You might say, okay, look, we didn't do any business. Say, okay, let's double our advertising budget tomorrow.
That's it.
And we'll see we can sell more dog collars or whatever.
How much thought went into that? Right.
Exactly. Give it a shot. Hey, the advertising guy came in from Village Green. I'll throw an ad her way. Seeing I can.
I don't think there's any long range planning in this White House. I think there may be for some of the people who work in the White House. I should say there's no long range planning for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I think there could be some long-range planning for some of the people who work for him. I mean,
and then they got to sit there and be like, what do you want to do now?
Right.
What?
Yeah.
But I thought, changing the subject a little bit, we'll talk about real estate in a few minutes.
That's all right.
But no, because because the reason I want to talk about real estate a little bit is locally too. Are you friends with some real estate brokers in the area?
Sure.
What are they saying about, with Trump in there? Is the market getting softer? The real estate market, home sales, mortgage rates rising? Where are we all with that right now?
Yeah. So I think mortgage rates are not going to be raising anytime soon. Mm-hmm. And when you look at historical mortgage rates, right? If we're paying 6%, 7% mortgage rates, historically, those are like kind of right in the middle. They're not high interest rates.
No.
We were spoiled during all of these years when, we had COVID and the economy was struggling and the interest rates were going down to like 2 and 3%.
Right. They're giving away loans.
They're
basically.
never going to be 2 and 3% again.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
Right.
Well, I think it's highly unlikely.
Yeah, 6, 7. I mean, right. As long as they're not double digits. I mean, which they have been in the past.
Exactly. You talk to people who moved to Maplewood, 35 years ago, they were paying like 15, 16, 17% interest on their mortgages, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to see that again either, thankfully.
Right.
I think the biggest thing that we see is because of so much uncertainty in the world, uncertainty in the economy, people are staying in their homes, they're not selling them. When you talk to local real estate agents now, they will tell you there are more properties on the market right now in Maplewood and South Orange than there have been for quite a while.
Yeah.
But prices are not going down. Maybe houses are not going for 20% above asking price anymore.
Right, yeah.
But they're still going for asking price and a little bit more typically.
Oh, right. So now it's still a good time, in your experience, sell the house. Good time to buy a house. Still a great area to be in. And,
it's a hard time. If you're going to sell a house in Maplewood and buy another one, you're going to sell your house for a lot, but you're going to buy your new one for a lot as well.
Yeah, no, it's the old saying, right? You'll make a fortune when you sell, but where are you going?
Right.
Right.
That's it. I mean, the average, I think the average sale in Maplewood is now at $1 million.
Yeah,
which,
amazing.
when we moved here, who would have thought
Right,
that
the average sale was 300,000.
that we were going to become like Milburn or Short Hills?
Yeah, no. Maplewood is but it always has been a wonderful community. But it's become a very expensive community too.
Incredibly expensive, which I'm fearful that is going to change a lot about what we all love about Maplewood.
Yeah.
The
diversity,
really
right?
When
it becomes who can afford the $1.5 million house?
Bankers and hedge fund managers.
Right. Yeah, so that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
So anyway, talking about Maplewood and South Orange, so it's a breaking news last week. I was very excited about it. Sheena Collum,
yes,
South Orange Mayor Sheena Collum, who is just a cool person, a really cool person.
And a great mayor.
Has an opportunity perhaps to become the next lieutenant governor of New Jersey if Steve Fulop, Jersey City's mayor, gets elected.
Correct.
Okay. Very interesting development locally.
It is.
Because
it's also very interesting development politically, right? Because lieutenant governor in New Jersey is a fairly new phenomenon. I think it's only in the last 15 years or so that we actually have a lieutenant governor.
Was Oliver the first? There might have been someone before her.
No, there were a couple of people.
Maybe Christie on the. Yeah, I remember. I know there wasn't when I was.
Yeah. But the lieutenant governor has never been announced, prior to a primary.
Oh, that's
before.
interesting. I did not know that.
Interesting political.
Yeah, so she's made history in that regard.
She has. Well, she does a great job. She's highly regarded.
Mm-hmm.
She's, I think, pretty much well loved by the people that she serves.
Sure.
Yeah.
It'd be very hard for people to say who've worked with her or met her or or had correspondence with her that they don't care for her.
Yeah.
So locally, though, that kind of pits her versus Cheryl a little bit in that now Cheryl, because this is now listen, I know Cheryl's she reaches where she's Maplewood, she's South Orange,
South Orange, Montclair, Parsippany, some other towns
that are
just
more,
to the west of Parsippany,
that are a little
more
moderate towns.
She's got a pretty diverse district politically, and having Montclair, Maplewood, West Orange, and then some of these towns in Morris County
that are a little more Republican or whatnot. You want to call them?
Yep.
I don't want to say they're this or they're that.
Right.
But she needs Maplewood South Orange to come through for her.
Yes, she does.
And Sheena Collum may be the most popular politician in Maplewood South Orange.
I think some other politicians in Maplewood and South Orange might disagree with you on that.
Yeah, well, it's a tie between her and Nancy Adams and Victor Luca and Dean Daffis. Right, that's right, and Malia Herman and Jennifer Greenberg and so on. Right, it's a tie.
We can go on and on. They're all fantastic, wonderful elected officials.
But they are
public servants.
By the way, to do this type of work, you know what? I don't care what you think of them. This is hard work, and
It's hard work for almost no monetary reward and a lot of headache.
A lot of headache, a lot of responsibility. You go to you want to relax and you have a drink in town, and someone's going to have an argument with you about their taxes. You never know.
When I was first on the township committee, Max was a little boy. We had to start going to the playground in Milburn because he used to get so upset about everybody coming to talk to me about things all the time.
Right, yeah. He was like, Dad, what about me?
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've seen it before. I've when people walk up to their table, you know, and having dinner with their husband, and and it's like, I just really want this, I want
to have dinner with my spouse.
Right, I just want to catch up on his day.
That's it.
Yeah,
right.
So, but I don't know. I think Sheena. I think Cheryl and Sheena. People are not talking about this so much, but I think that could collide and become this big thing. If Cheryl's going to win, I think she really needs to work hard on these two towns.
Right.
She needs this area.
Yeah, she needs all the Democratic strongholds to come out for her. The thing is with Mikey Cheryl, she can also appeal because of her military background, her background as a federal prosecutor. Mm-hmm. She can appeal to some Republicans who might not be as enthusiastic about some of the other Democratic candidates.
Right. Yeah. So. I just find it interesting. I mean, I know I haven't really the Village Green or whatnot. I mean, that she's been covering it, but I don't know if they've been covering specifically what this might mean for the election itself coming up. But yeah, I think.
I mean, choice. It's like they say. In the old days, right? Like your vice presidential candidate was very important for. Geographical diversity.
Right. The president was from the north, and you got a vice president from the south. Right. To kind of.
I think a lot of people are going to vote for governor based on who their lieutenant governor is going to be? I don't think that's going to have a huge impact. But I think there are a lot of people in Maplewood and South Orange who'll be like, "Oh, I'd love to see Sheena Cullum be the lieutenant governor." So I think in that respect, you're correct.
Yeah. So it's funny because SOMA. Sometimes my wife jokes around about SOMA. She'll be like, it's. Remember that old New Yorker headline where it was like New York and then the rest of the world was
we live in a bubble here.
Right, that's right. So I think a lot of people here sometimes forget there's the rest of the world.
That's right. The rest of New Jersey, the rest of Essex County.
But in this case, the New Jersey governors could come down to Maplewood South. This bubble may actually,
if
it's Cheryl versus Follop, and then everyone's like, well, I'm voting for Sheena.
This is a weird election. With six candidates running for the Democratic primary for governor, somebody could win this election with 25% of the vote. I mean, it comes down to that.
Yeah. Now, what's that called again, Ian? Where we don't have it in New Jersey, but it's like ranked choice.
Be a great way to go.
That would be the way to go for
especially in this kind of election with so many people running. In my humble opinion, there are three very strong candidates running. Mm-hmm. It's Mikey Cheryl, Steve Fulop, and Ros Baraka. All three of them have some really great strong points. They all have some negative points as well, right?
Sure.
So ranked choice voting, right? When you have three really great candidates, six good candidates, right? They're all good candidates,
right? They're all going to get a lot of votes,
right? But I think these three in particular are probably going to get more votes. Ranked choice voting would be a fantastic thing to have here in New Jersey.
Is it too late for this election cycle?
It's too late for this election cycle.
Yeah, but it's so ranked choice basically works. So I would go and I might say, okay, on the primary, I'm voting for Baraka first. I'm voting for Cheryl second.
Right.
And I'm voting for the Jersey City mayor third.
Fulop third.
That's
how you would vote.
Right. I'm just spitballing.
Okay. I have to be careful.
For all those candidates out there, I'm undecided.
Yes.
But let's just say that was. But now, so I forgot who I said was first. I said Baraka.
You said Ros Baraka.
Okay, so Baraka doesn't get it. He's my vote might go to the second candidate if it was between the second and the third.
Right.
Something like that. So that's where my vote goes.
The way that ranked choice voting works.
That's what I'm trying to basically figure out how it works.
Yeah. So if you voted for Ros Baraka, Mikey Cheryl, Steve Fulop did not meet the certain bar, and I don't know what the bar would be in terms of number of votes.
20% or something, or
he
whatever.
Would drop out.
Okay.
And then the Steve Fulop votes would then be divided between the people who chose him to be first well, who do those people choose to be second? And then their vote would go to that person who the full voters chose to be second.
Okay.
And so that's the way. We actually had in Maplewood recently an organization that works on ranked choice voting come, and they did, it was creative. They did rank the desserts in the room, and they had like 5 different desserts, and you had to pick your first, second, third, fourth, and fifth choice.
Yeah.
And, and in the end, I don't remember which dessert won.
Yeah.
But it was a very creative way to show people how ranked choice voting works, and it's a great thing, right? But, we're fortunate this year that we have a choice of some pretty great candidates.
Yeah,
right?
I mean it's like a who's who.
Right.
I mean every politician that's running for governor and I've heard of.
Right.
In the past, you might have a few. I remember years and years ago, it was like 10, 11. I mean, this probably go Brendan Byrne, I think, was one of the candidates. That's how far back I'm going.
Yeah.
Tom Kaine.
When I first moved to New Jersey, Tom Kaine was the governor.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah.
Perfect together.
By the way, he's from Livingston, Tom Kaine.
I didn't know that.
As am I. Yes.
I know that.
Yeah,
and Chris Christie.
I had a job in high school delivering for a local pharmacy.
Right.
And I used to deliver to the Kaine Mansion. There was a mansion, and the guy would come. Security would come out. What do you want?
But didn't you play baseball with Chris Christie too?
No, Chris Christie. So Chris Christie was a couple years older than me.
Okay.
So I knew his brother Todd.
Got it.
So I played basketball with Todd, his younger brother Todd.
Okay.
Yeah. Who? By the way, and this is two. Yeah, we got a few minutes. So I got 2 Christie stories. You want to hear 2 funny Christie stories? Okay, so here's Todd Christie. He was the type of guy. If he missed a shot, which was often, he cried foul. Foul! You fouled me! You fouled me! Well, nobody fouled
Sounds like his brother.
Yeah, right. You're a lousy basketball player. So, but here's the Christie story. So this story goes back to anybody from Livingston listening knows this story. So, Chris Christie was the starting catcher on the Livingston High School baseball team. The Livingston High School baseball team back there was one of the best in the state. A couple of the guys on the team ended up getting drafted one by the Cleveland Indians, another guy I think by the Padres. Neither one of them made the major leagues, but you know what? They were really high. They were early round picks, really star players. Christie's the catcher on the team. They win the state championship. Okay, so Christie's a junior. So what happened was Marty Ritt was the best catcher in the state, New Jersey. He went to a private school, not sure which one, but he was considered the best catcher in the state. Another guy the pros were already looking at. His family moves to Livingston, right? So Marty Ritt is now going to play for the Livingston High School baseball team, which basically means Chris Christie is now going to be the backup. The Christie family was furious, so they actually were I don't remember how far, but they were threatening legal action to keep Marty Ritt from playing ball on the team, feeling that he had the only reason Ritt was here was to get more. Because the team was considered the best in the state, he wanted to win a state championship to just feather.
They didn't cause a traffic jam in front of Marty Ritt's driveway, did they?
That's right. No, like the bridge gate. There was no bridge gate. So,
okay.
So that was it. So the Christie, nothing ever happened. But the Christies made a big deal about it. Marty Ritt plays on the team. They win the championship again, and Christie's a backup, and he's no star on the team. But it worked out well for him anyway.
Right.
I
think he did okay for himself.
But that was Chris Christie when he was 17.
Yeah.
That was Chris Christie when he was 17.
Very interesting.
Yep. And the Bridgegate actually, the former the guy who runs the Globe now, Weinstein.
Right.
Here's another Livingston story.
Right.
So Weinstein was the mayor of Livingston when he was like 23, 24 years old. He was like an Alex Torpy, he was. Now he was, working for the Port Authority in an appointed position when the whole Bridgegate thing happened. So anyway, all roads lead to Livingston.
Okay,
and
there we go.
Now Maplewood and South Orange, it seems like.
Very interesting.
But anyway.
And interesting you should bring up, Wildstein, his connection out of Maplewood. So our Assemblywoman Garnett Hall
Yep.
At an interesting Democratic convention for Essex County did not win the nomination this year.
Right, okay.
David Wildstein has jumped on this as a story that he's running regularly.
No, he's the Globe. It's the Globe, right?
Right. The Globe.
Yep. Which covers New Jersey politics.
Right, and he does a podcast, similar to us. Maybe he has a bigger audience than we do.
Yeah. Well, he was mayor of Livingston when he was 23.
But he's been he's been goading Garnett like very often in his podcast, and it's really
What is he?
it's pretty
What
awful.
is he? What's his issue with Garnett?
Well, because I think that he feels Garnett was has been part of the county Democratic Party establishment. She was not endorsed, and that's a whole other story. And maybe we can get Garnett on to talk about it at some point.
That'd be great.
But in the end, Garnett decided then to run with Steve Fulop, who was running, I guess you could say, against the party establishment.
Okay.
And he's been, kind of needling her about that regularly on his podcast.
Okay, so he's kind of giving her a hard time about it. That she feels that she has an opportunity to win, and she wants to continue down this road. And
That's it.
He seems to think that she should.
It costs a lot of money, to run for political office in New Jersey. Like a state assembly election could easily cost $200,000. Fulop has got money to help people. Fulop has some very good ideas, and he's approached her to run on the ticket with him.
Well, what I will say about Garnett Hall, and I've met her a handful of times, and I consider her a friend. She is in politics. She was behind the scenes forever.
Always behind the scenes for 20 years.
20 years. She all of a sudden has an opportunity to become an assemblywoman.
Yep.
She wins. She's not doing it because, she just loves the attention and that comes. She loves the work.
Correct.
And she wants to continue
Absolutely.
to do that work.
110%.
So when you give someone a hard time, understand the person that this is actually a worker.
Yep.
This is not.
She works very hard. Garnett, in her first 15 months in the assembly, was a sponsor on, I think, 370 bills in the state assembly.
Right. I mean, that's
prime sponsor on bills to punish those who are creating climate change, in the state of New Jersey.
Real issues.
Real issues.
And she understands these issues. She's on top of them because she's been there for 20 years studying them.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, we're going to give people like her a hard time who want to run for office.
Yep.
I mean, what are we doing in the state of New
and
Jersey?
It's harmful to Maplewood and South Orange, right? Like we worked for years and years and years to get somebody from Maplewood or South Orange into the legislature. We had Mila J.C. for years, but when we were redistricted, there was a good chance that could change,
Right.
And we were very fortunate that the way things turned out, Garnett ended up being in the assembly, and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
Now, if Garnett does not receive the party endorsement, we have two people from Newark who've been endorsed for these roles, right? That Maplewood does not have a voice at the table then anymore. It's very important for people to show up and vote for her.
Yeah, it's something to think about. I do think locally sometimes people are so wrapped up here with Board of Ed and with and township committee issues, streets, and things that they sometimes are not aware of what the assembly does.
Right.
So what exactly does the assembly do for the state of New Jersey?
Every law in the state of New Jersey is created by the New Jersey State Legislature, which is made up of the New Jersey Assembly and the New Jersey State Senate.
Yeah.
All appropriations, go through the New Jersey State Assembly and the New Jersey State Senate.
Yeah.
They are incredibly important for all of our state laws, and all of our state funding for everything goes through that legislature. Maplewood did not have anybody in the state legislature for 65 years.
Yeah.
And the last member of this legislature from Maplewood was a Republican. Right now we've got Garnett as a Democrat from Maplewood, and there is a chance that, we need people to come out and vote for her. That's what it really boils
so Garnett
down
Hall.
to.
So hey, for those listening,
Keep the voice for Maplewood and South Orange and Trenton.
yeah, okay, absolutely right. She's one of us.
Yep,
she is one of us. Yeah, so that's important, Soma. Ian, we're going to wrap things up in a minute. We actually did a pretty good job here. We had a guest that was originally going to come, and he had to
it worked
cancel
out well.
last minute, and we said, let's just go up for air anyway, because Ian and I have plenty to talk about. But what are you doing in real estate? You talked a little bit about
thank
that,
you,
and then
thank
I'm gonna pitch my book at the end, which is on sale,
which is fantastic.
Thank
and I
you,
think that it should be made into a screenplay. But we've talked about that before.
We're working on that. We're working on that.
Yeah.
So my book is Secretary of the City. Where all good books are sold.
It's a great, easy, fun, and entertaining read. You can sit down and read it in 2 hours. It's great.
And the second book's coming out very shortly.
All right,
so
good.
that's breaking news.
Is
Actually,
it a continuation?
Continuation, yes, that's
very
right.
Good,
Yeah. So if
very
you
good.
like the first one, as Ian did,
I
thank
will
you very much.
pre-order it for sure.
Yes, the Secretary of the City. It's available now on Amazon. And
It's
there will
really
be,
good. It's really, really entertaining. And again, as I was reading it the whole time, I'm thinking, this would be like a great movie.
Yeah, well, you know what? From your lips to God's ears, as they say, Ian.
Yeah.
Or to Hollywood's ears.
Yeah,
So talk about real estate real quick, and then we'll call it a day. But tell us what you do, because you are all over the. You're always at an airport. You're always down south. No,
I'm going on Sunday actually. But
okay.
So right now, I started a couple of years ago in preparation for retirement. Getting involved in real estate, and I actually have bought and sold. A lot of people would call it flipping. I think that's kind of a derogatory word.
Yeah.
Homes in Maplewood, Orange, and Edison, New Jersey. So in this last year, I have started doing the same kind of work in Birmingham, Alabama. But we are focusing right now on Birmingham is a city that has seen hard times. There's a lot of difficulties in Birmingham, although there's a lot of money being pumped into the infrastructure in Birmingham. Birmingham is on the way up. A lot of people feel it's the next Nashville, if you will.
Yeah.
Purchasing homes there, rehabbing them, and creating Section 8 housing, right? A Section 8 housing program is a HUD-based program that provides quality housing for people at, lower income levels.
Yeah.
And it's really great. The work we're doing, we've done it. We've done so far this year. We've worked on 6 properties, all being rented by people in the Section 8 program. We're planning on expanding that in a bigger way. I have a great partner on the ground there, although I do try to get to Birmingham every 8 or 9 weeks for a few days.
Yeah.
But it's a great opportunity. And if people are interested in hearing more about it and knowing how they could get involved in it and make some money doing it.
Sure.
Feel free to reach out to me, and I can tell you more about it. But thank you for giving me that opportunity to talk about it, Lee.
All right, no, excellent. Yeah, and Birmingham is a place to retire down to. And I can't afford here anymore. In the next Nashville, I certainly love music. A vibe. So,
yeah, I mean, it's I have to say, my entire life, I always thought if there's 2 states in the United States that I'm never going to go to, it's going to be Alabama and Mississippi.
Right, yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised. It is not New Jersey.
Of course
but
not,
I was pleasantly surprised by what I did find there. I don't know if it's a good retirement place, but there are parts of Alabama that could be, like Gulf Shores.
Sure, yeah, there's beautiful
Mobile, Alabama, much cheaper than retiring to Florida.
Beachfront communities that you don't think of Mississippi. Absolutely. Yeah, I have a friend of mine bought a home in, I guess, Mississippi, right on the beach. He takes pictures. Like, is that Jersey Shore?
Close to Biloxi.
Yeah,
probably.
right on there. I go, is that Jersey Shore? He's
right.
Like, not quite.
Well,
but
weird stuff going on in Florida, and Florida has just become an incredibly expensive place for people from the Northeast to retire to. If they're looking for warmer climates, if they're looking for being near the water, like Gulf Shores and Mobile, Alabama might be places to consider.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so there you go. Now we've covered everything here. The Lee and Ian podcast.
There we go. There we go.
Where
we can talk for hours more, but we don't want to bore people.
That's
forever.
right. It's quitting time. That's right. So Ian Grodman, Lee Navlin, guys, we were all over the map today, but thanks for listening. This is a podcast.
Everybody.
This is a podcast that is for SOMA, about SOMA, and
beyond.
And beyond.
Yes.
We'll do it again soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.